I think the process is really grueling, so go into it with endurance in mind.
It is a lengthy process.
A lot of times applicants get confused, double check everything.
The application itself is tedious and a bit confusing. And my rather flippant but frankly candid answer to them when they complain about it is, welcome to the federal government. And I don't mean that as sort of a generic blast at the federal government, but it is a tedious and very detailed statement, and that's the way the government needs it to be. And if you're going to be deterred from filling out that application, then clearly PMF is not for you. I will say in defense of the PMF program that they have a step-by-step kind of color-coded guide to how to fill out the application. They've had one web page that scrolls down vertically, step 1 through I think step 14 or something. And if you follow that pretty closely, you should be able to get through it. And last year, more than 10,000 people completed the application. Okay, so clearly it's not brain surgery.
First thing I would definitely recommend is see your career services personnel in whatever school that you're in. They're going to know how to direct you on the whole application process. I actually conduct a workshop on that for the entire university. And then going through the types of agencies that you would be interested in and what are they actually going to be searching for in terms of degree programs and skill sets that those agencies would be interested in, because you want to make sure that you're targeting what it is that you're offering to the agency specific to what they're asking for.
You start your application usually in early fall, and so it can be hard to focus on getting that done, but definitely put attention to detail, because when people are looking at your resume, if there are mistakes in that resume, if there are clear rush items, you will be judged on that by potential hirers.
If you think about other prestigious programs that you can do post-graduation, things like Teach for America, things like Peace Corps, things like the Rhodes Scholarship, not to say that these are precisely similar, but you ought to treat it with that kind of respect, both for the process, but also for your own time.
Well, I tell them not to multitask, and that might sound really funny, but there have been a couple cases where students, I think, were so busy doing too many things. Maybe they had the TV on, maybe they were checking their text messages, whatever, and they didn't link their resume to their application, and then they're not eligible. There's nothing that we can do. So I tell them, I said, don't multitask when you're filling out the application. I also tell the students to double check everything, that don't just complete it and then hit submit. I always say take time and space, come back to it, double check all your answers, and then hit submit. So those are two really main things. And I also let them know that that application has no bearing on whether or not you're going to make it through the process unless it's complete and on time.
I think it's critical that PMF applicants reach out through their alumni networks at their school to find either current PMFs or recent PMFs that can tell them a little bit about the program more in depth and some of their experiences. I think that connection and those personal tidbits of advice are critical to a PMF applicant's success.
You really want to tell your story in an effective way. And you're not constrained, like you are in the private sector, by the single-side, one-page resume. And certainly that's not what federal human resource practitioners are used to evaluating. And so it's important that you're able to add context to your experience. And I think a lot of people sometimes get hung up thinking that their experience is somewhat less relevant because it's done in student government instead of local government, or activities that are done in the nonprofit sphere or in volunteerism, participating in boards for nonprofits is somehow less valuable than Hill experience, or work in the Peace Corps. And that's not really the case. But I think if you don't tell your story, you're not going to get any credit for that at all.
Think carefully about what it is you think you would achieve or what your goals are for spending time in federal government. And it'll work for you if you're coming for the right reasons. But one of the things that government is not is one size fits all. It's really not for everybody. But if you consider that you want to do some public service, you want to understand how your government works, and it's not particularly glamorous. You're not going to be advising the president 2 days on the job, but you will get a sense of what your government does and how for an area that you're interested in. Then I think those would be kind of the right motivations. And in terms of actually putting together the application, I think punctuate things correctly, do a spell check, make sure it all makes sense.